Hello and welcome. You're watching Medicine Box. I'm Ekta Batra. Well, on to the big story today. Biocon Biologics and Serum Institute have agreed to restructure their strategic partnership. According to the new terms, Serum will make an additional equity investment of $150 million in Biocon Biologics, taking its total investment to $300 million. They will do this by converting their earlier loan given during the Viatris deal to Biocon Biologics by converting that to equity. So Serum will now pick up a 4.9% stake in the Biocon subsidiary. The deal values Biocon Biologics at $6 billion. As per the deal terms agreed in 2021, the company was valued at just under $5 billion. Biocon Biologics will have access to 100 million doses of vaccines annually. It will also get distribution rights to Serum's vaccine portfolio. We spoke to Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, who is the executive chairperson Biocon and Biocon Biologics, on the reasons for restructuring the deal and the impact it will have on both companies.
There was an original deal that was struck in 2021 about offering a 15% stake in return for, certain financials linked to vaccines. Now that has been replaced by a straight equity, investment, whereas, Serum had already invested $150 million in Biocon Biologics, and there was a loan that is now being converted into equity, which will add another $150 million and make it an aggregate investment of $300 million at an approximate aggregate valuation of $6 billion. So I think that's the change in the restructured arrangement that we now have with Serum Institute.
Okay. Ma'am, hi, this is Ekta. This is something that we discussed in your earnings gone by, that, there is a possibility of this loan which is going to be converted into equity. So now with this $300 million investment in Biocon Biologics, how much stake does Serum hold?
Yeah, so if you know, the original 15% stake obviously is replaced with this. So you can do your calculations, The $300 million will then be, given a stake at a $6 billion enterprise valuation. So, you can do the math. So it won't be, obviously, it'll be much lower than the 15% stake that was originally planned.
Okay, what is the change when it comes to the vaccine distribution? Because that has actually been on the market's mind for some time now, because COVID-19 vaccines were a part of that particular deal. But now that COVID-19 has taken a backseat in terms of vaccination as a whole, the street was wondering what the partnership, what the strategic lineup would be for those 100 million doses. So what does it comprise of now?
Yeah, so I think even originally it wasn't just confined to COVID vaccines, Ekta. It was going to, basically include the complete portfolio of vaccines that Serum was developing and did have in their existing portfolio. But as you know, the demand for COVID vaccines is waning. And so obviously we now have to wait for their new vaccines, which are a few years away in terms of launching. So I think from that point of view, we expect to still have access to the 100 million doses of vaccines, but it'll take a slightly, it'll take a different kind of orientation in terms of the way we commercialize the vaccines.
Okay. All right. So it'll probably have a different way in terms of commercializing. Ma'am, Serum has taken a lot of interest in Biocon Biologics, $300 million in terms of an equity investment. What is the strategic or larger plan that Serum has in mind with Biocon Biologics? With the, this kind of equity investment, they do also have access to biologics, which is a new frontier of growth when it comes to generics in the US. So what kind of long-term strategic plan do they have? Do they want to increase stake beyond this $300 million?
Obviously I have no optics on that. And, I don't think I can make any comments on their behalf. All I can say is that, yes, the biologics business is a very attractive business. I think Serum Institute was very keen to invest in a biologics, biosimilars business. And, as a part of that, we also discussed the vaccine business. And if we have a strong commercial engine in global markets, I guess vaccines also then offer a good, opportunity for both companies in terms of marketing.
We also spoke to Adar Poonawala, CEO, Serum Institute. He told us that the alliance with Biocon Biologics was not limited to COVID vaccines.
The $300 million at the moment is a large investment, that one of the largest investments we've made in a strategic alliance. This will amount to a 4.9% stake now, because the valuation of Biocon Biologics is close to around $6 billion. As I think Kiran Shaw had mentioned recently. So, look, I really respect and admire the biologics business that Biocon and Biologics has built, and especially with the recent Viatris deal. So, to begin with, this is what we have announced and done. I don't know, and I wouldn't comment in the future if we will increase that investment or not. I know that there are many other investors also looking at taking a stake in Biocon Biologics, and I'll leave that for them to announce as and when those deals happen. But at the moment, this is what we're doing, and we're very optimistic on this business going forward. And it's a little different to vaccines, so we thought this would be a very good strategic partnership to be able to offer our 100 million dose vaccine capacity also to them, perhaps make monoclonal and other antibody products also that they have. There are so many opportunities and possibilities with this alliance, so I'm extremely optimistic.
But Adar, just to follow up, I mean, I'm taking off from what you just said, that you do know that there are other potential parties interested in Biocon Biologics. So since you see such an opportunity, as you say, wouldn't you want to beat the others to it? Because at 4.9%, I mean, you're under 5% equity. At an sort of intent level, would you want to have more stake in Biocon Biologics?
Not at this stage. I won't comment on that. I think this deal has just happened, so we'll wait and see how they decide to take on more investors, and then we can see if I would increase my stake or not. But at the moment, this is all that we're doing, along with 100 million dose vaccine capacity that is available now. As you know, COVID vaccines, which was initially what we were going to make, and sell through Biocon Biologics, has now got a lesser demand. But we've got so many other vaccines that will now be made in our pipeline that to utilize this capacity going forward.
Okay, so that exactly was my question. My next question, Adar. Hi, welcome to the show. This is Ekta. Just wanted to understand that COVID-19 vaccines would now be out of the strategic alliance, the 100 million doses that you all have a distribution strategic tie-up with Biocon now?
No, it is a 100 million dose capacity reservation. So we could make COVID vaccines. And look, you never say never. There's always a booster market that we're looking at.
Sure.
So it's not limited to COVID vaccines. It's COVID vaccines and or any other vaccines that we want to put through in this partnership. And of course, the other vaccines will take a little bit of time, as Kiran Shaw had mentioned in her statement as well. Sure. But look, this is a 10, 15-year horizon and vision that we're looking at. It's a 15-year arrangement. So there's plenty of time, to generate some good sales, through our other vaccines. And it's not just limited to vaccines that we make.
Adar, just, a follow-up with regards to that. The peak potential or a peak amount of revenue which was estimated from this tie-up in 2021 was around $400 million with margins of around 35%. Of this 100 million doses, which Biocon Biologics will have access to. How much do you think it's probably scaled down to, or do you think it stays at around $400 million in terms of peak potential revenues?
No, I don't know where you were getting this figure of $400 million. I'll tell you, prices of these vaccines, as you know, changes with demand. Now, I can't give any predictions or statements on the future earnings and EBITDA and all that would be there. But we've got a profit sharing arrangement in the agreement, which shares the profits of the vaccines that will be made. So again, depending on the vaccine, depending on the price, it'll all fluctuate, and Biocon Biologics can then later give you visibility on that. This is just the agreement which allows that to happen. So even if you look at the COVID prices, the COVID vaccine prices, they were around $2 to $3 a dose, and there was there are different profit sharing ratios and thresholds. So there was never a $400 million figure.
That's probably what was assumed
so we'll have to wait and see.
That was probably what was assumed by the market. But I just wanted a larger question with regards to what the plans would be in the pharmaceutical space for Serum. You have this tie-up with Biocon Biologics, which will give you access to the biologics market. You do have a tie-up with Wockhardt, which is for vaccines, but nonetheless, are you at some level probably going to look to enter into the pharmaceutical market ex of vaccines as Serum?
No, I think anything we do now will be with Biocon Biologics in a strategic partnership, but I don't think we will get into making or having a separate vertical completely. So we'll wait and see how this partnership fructifies in the future, and we'll go from there.
There's just one question. Were you offered a board seat for your 4.9% stake, and would you be coming on board? Biocon.
Yes. So I was just discussing that. I do have the right for a board seat. I'm not exercising that at this moment because currently I'm preoccupied with Poonawalla FinCorp, and I've actually got a board meeting today. So yes, in the future I may exercise my right, which I do have, for me to be nominated from Serum to be on the board. And I will most probably exercise that right in the near future. Let's put it that way, but not at the moment.
Okay, Biocon Biologics is probably going to hit the markets, probably going to undergo an IPO by FY26. That's what the indicative timeline is. By then, maybe valuations could rise from the $6 billion as well. What is your larger intent with Biocon Biologics by, say, FY26? Would you want to probably exit during the IPO, hence you're just a strategic investor? Would you probably want a bigger share in the pie when it comes to Biocon Biologics? Currently, Biocon holds 71%, you hold 4.9%, Viatris holds a certain amount of stake. Any more investments that we could see, or would you probably look to exit in FY26?
No, all options are open, but I wouldn't look at an exit so soon. I believe in the long-term potential of this company. And as you said, look, $6 billion is you can call it a fair valuation, a good valuation, but I think there's a lot of upside coming in the next 2 years, on the valuation side. At least I hope so. That's why I've made the investment. I'm in this for the long term, and whether I increase my stake, whether I exit, it'll depend on the markets and the situation at that time. But I believe in this in the long term, and I think I'm going to be here, as a strategic partner and equity holder in the long term. I can't comment on whether I'll increase my stake at this stage, so we'll have to just wait and see.
All right, time for a break now, but coming up, Mankind Pharma open for subscription today. We spoke to the company's MD to find out more about their growth plans. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Well, Mumbai-based pharmaceutical company Ipca Laboratories is acquiring more than 33% stake in Unichem Labs at 440 rupees per share, aggregating to 1,034 crores. The company's board has also given the go-ahead for an open offer of up to 26% additional stake in Unichem Labs. That will total to over 800 crores in terms of the open offer. The stock, however, which is Ipca Labs, ended lower in today's trading session because the street seems to be worried about a couple of things. But before we get to that, what does the acquisition add to Ipca? Remember that Unichem Labs, in fact, sold its domestic formulation business in 2017 to Torrent Pharma for 3,700 crores. After that, they just had their international formulation business, which they retained. Within that, 55% of sales, in fact, come in from the US markets. With this particular acquisition, Ipca Labs will get access to the US markets. Remember that Ipca Labs currently has regulatory concerns on 3 of their plants when it comes to the US markets. So that will possibly provide them leeway into the major market of the US. Separately, they will also get 3 API facilities. They will also get 3 formulation facilities from this particular acquisition. The reason the stock was down was possibly because Unichem's numbers have been sluggish as a whole. Their margins have been dilutive as well. So, for example, on 9 months FY23, they did incur an EBITDA loss. And hence, the street is worried that on a consolidated basis, the margins could possibly be pulled down. So those are a couple of reasons why the street was a bit skeptical with regards to this particular acquisition. But let's move on then. GSK Pharma was in focus as it has launched its vaccine to prevent shingles in India. The vaccine helps prevent shingles in adults over 50 years. The vaccine, called Shingrix, has proven an efficacy of over 90% against shingles and can provide at least 10 years of protection against the disease. Shingrix is the world's first non-live recombinant subunit vaccine to be given in 2 doses. India, remember, has over 260 million adults above the age of 50 that suffer from shingles complications. We did speak to the MD of the company, who said that they had an India-specific pricing for the vaccine, which would be priced 30 to 40% lower than global rates.
What gives us confidence is clearly our ability to work across a very diverse set of stakeholders. We've just created a dedicated sales team, including opportunities in non-traditional channels beyond healthcare practitioners and hospitals. So clearly, this is going to be a big opportunity in the form of looking at how many of those 260 million people can benefit with this innovative path-breaking vaccine. Coming to the pricing, obviously for India, we will definitely have an India-specific pricing, significantly different than what you see in the Western world. We're just launching it this week, but there'll be a range of at least 30-40% lower than what you see in the other parts of the world.
Mankind Pharma opened for subscription today. The pharma company is looking to raise over 4,000 crores by selling 4 crore shares via a pure OFS. The firm's promoter is likely to sell 1 crore shares or 2.5% stake, while 2 PEs are looking to sell 3 crore shares totally. We did speak to Rajiv Janeja, who's the MD of Mankind Pharma, about the company's plans for the India market and growth going forward. Listen in.
27 years back, we started with just nothing in our hand, just 50 lakh rupees, and created this kind of a organization where prescription-wise, we are #1 company, revenue-wise, we are 4th largest company, we are one of the fastest and the youngest company in India, reached to this particular level. Talk about anything about Mankind, you'll find that it is a very unique kind of a company. We have a wonderful consumer division. The chronic side contributes to the sales of Mankind to the tune of 34% and growing at a pace of 1.4 times to pharma industry. Even in the acute side, our growth is 1.2 times more than the Indian pharma industry. So what I can talk about future, you can make your own conclusion about that.
Now, could you tell us so you've got the pharma business and you got a very strong consumer healthcare portfolio as well, which has been doing very well, and it's very visible with a lot of advertising, etc. And kind of does, as you say, does seem differentiated as compared to other products offered by other companies, etc. Could you tell us how much do you spend on advertising broadly on the consumer side? And talk to us a little bit about the growth potential here on the consumer healthcare business.
See, when we started the company in 95, and when you're nothing, and you want to basically make a mark in the pharma industry that you should be noticed, the first thought was what? Be contrarian. So first you'll find in Mankind is that instead of starting like any other pharma company from bigger cities, we started bottom approach. And once we reached to a level, like for example, 50 crore rupees in 2000, in 1995, we were 5 crore rupees company. Our thought was always one that whatever we are doing in a year, can we do in 1 month? On this philosophy, we have always worked. In 2007, when we reached to this 500 crore rupees sales, then we thought of launching this consumer division. Why so? There's a reason for that. Because even in those days, because we were a small company, came from small town Meerut, people were still saying that it's a small company and they sell not affordable medicines, they sell cheap medicine. Because it disrupted the market. Okay. So we wanted to give answer to the industry. Yeah. So launched consumer division because intangible benefit is when your advertisement is there on TV, your brand is also visible. Corporate branding is also visible. So keeping that in mind. Yeah. And work very aggressively. And today, all the products of consumer division, Manforce Condom is number 1, Braga News is number 1, Unwanted is number 1. And not only that, they command 30% share Manforce Condoms, 80% share in Braga News, 60% plus in Unwanted. Okay. So we have always been a kind of organization where thought is not for the sake of going and covering the market, always dominating and leadership.
The CEO is from the family, the COO is also from the family. So if you look at other pharmaceutical companies which are listed and which you also want to compete with in tier 2 and metro towns, they all have professionals on board and are the top managements. So will that transition happen? Is that something that investors have brought up? Is that a concern that investors have brought up on the road shows? And is that a transition which might take place?
Nobody talked about this, but this thing is also playing in our head. One thing you'll find in Mankind in medium term to long term, that family will be just sitting in the board. The rest of the things will be done by the professionals because ultimate goal of organization is making this organization a institution. That with this, we are also working internally how to go forward in this particular line.
Okay.
And this will definitely happen.
Sure. Mr. Janeja, so that is a thought that maybe there could be some amount of transition of the top management to maybe, entities or people who are not connected directly with the family. Just a last question from my end is the Panacea Biotech acquisition. This is something which is brought up as a concern amongst a couple of analysts that maybe that 1,800 crores was too expensive for those 70 brands because only 2 seem to be outperforming within that space and sales have been stagnant. Margins are questionable. So the end point is that when is the payback of that 1,800 crores of the Panacea Biotech acquisition? And in hindsight, do you think that was possibly a correct move by the company?
See, whenever you look at any organization from a distance and you have only data in your hand, this kind of analysis is not wrong, actually. But just scratch the surface a bit, slice and dice, and you find that this is an amazing kind of an acquisition. I give you some reasons for that. Number 1, we got their transplant business, which is very, very difficult to enter. We asked a question, can we create this kind of a business? The answer was no. There are approximately 2,000 doctors who do organ transplant operations in India. Out of 2,000, 400, 500 doctors do 60% of the work. They are very niche, very difficult to enter. So they have great portfolio in that side.
All right, on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Medicine Box. Thanks very much for watching.